rise of televangelism and online worship. Joining me, Pastor Ray Kesis, pastor from Baraton. Welcome, Pastor.
Thank you so much.
We also have Pastor Denish Ogumbe. Pastor Denish, welcome to this discussion. Pastor Denish.
Thank you very much.
Yes, we also have with us Victor Nyacharo. He is the communication director from Nairobi Central SDA Church. Welcome, Victor.
Thank you so much, Rotemo.
And lastly, we have Denmark Achieng. He's joining us from NHC Langata. That's an estate where they are conducting online worship and prayer meetings. Welcome, Denmark.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Well, thank you very much. Shifting gears, the rise of televangelism and online worship. We want to look at online worship, the thing that we have all been forced to go into. Now, let me start from the crisis itself, that is the coronavirus. It has really affected us, and all societies in the whole world have been affected by this particular pandemic. And therefore, such measures as closure of churches and gatherings have been put in place to ensure that we curb these particular menace. Pastor Kesis, how has this affected worship in our churches as we know it?
This has affected, first of all, the mind, because, religion traditionally is very, very conservative. People who are religious, regardless whether it's Christian or not, they are very conservative. So when you tell religious people that they can't worship the way they used to worship, the first crisis is mental, where people feel like something here is wrong. And of course, now the conspiracy theorists start churning out their theories saying, end of the world, 666, mark of the beast. But all of it is a resistance to now the new shift that we are finding ourselves in. But when you look in depth in reality, we were denied meeting together, but we have not been denied to worship. And then maybe the last thing I will say for now is that worship entails our communication with God, but there is also fellowship where we come together with one another. It's just one component of worship. And this COVID-19 pandemic has really affected our coming together physically, social distancing and those kind of things. So that's how worship has been affected. But for the mental thing, I think we are now adjusting. We are no longer as angry as we were in March.
Yeah. That's true. And Victor, how has your membership received this in terms of how have they been affected by this particular crisis?
Thank you, Rotemo. To be sincere, it is a serious one. Mm-hmm. People would want to be in church on a normal day. And the concern and the comments you get online, they look forward to coming back to church. It's been a serious situation where we stream to members, and they appreciate the fact that he has to stream. The fact that they will have to come is just the way Pastor Kesis has mentioned. It's mental. People associate themselves with coming to church, not just to fellowship as in regards to listening to the sermons, but also to have a one-on-one with their friends and relatives. And this is one of the things that they're missing, okay? And so for us, it's we're trying to change the shift. And as Pastor Kesis has said, the mental bit of it is really what we need to address as we move forward. And thanks to the programs that we're sharing, this is being addressed. And they're coming to appreciate the fact that we are still a church, even if we're not in the brick and mortar.
Okay. Pastor Kesis.
What I'm thinking.
Yes.
Worship has several aspects that can happen online. But maybe another challenge that I see is the younger children. The adults may be understanding, but for younger children, they wonder, what kind of church is this that we are still in the house? So I just needed to add that aspect, that one of our other struggles is that we must deal with the children who are trying to understand what is happening to this church that we are not going to. We are not going to school. We are not going to church, but we are saying, we are adjusting to that reality.
So, Pastor, in essence, what is worship? Must I be in a certain, geographical location? Must I be in a certain structure for me to experience that aspect of worship? Or is it that I'm so accustomed to being in a church setup that anything else doesn't appear to be worship to me?
Now, worship has several aspects, Brother Atemo. And the first one is that in worship, we come to praise God. Then in worship, we come to show our expression of appreciation through offerings and tithe. Then again, in worship, we come to fellowship. So in worship, there are several aspects. One, there is what we take up to God. And then during worship, there is what we expect from God coming down to us. And then in worship, there is what happens between us who are worshipers. That's the fellowship. And so those aspects need to be there for worship to have taken place. That when you go to worship, there is something you take up to God, praise, prayers, requests. You have a cry, you are taking it up to God. And you take it up through singing and through praying, that kind of thing. Then there are things which come from God. There are blessings we don't see, but there is also the word that the preacher preaches. It comes from God to us during worship. And now during worship again, we fellowship. That's why there is that text in Hebrews which says that do not cease coming together as some of you are in the habit. Not because coming together is the only aspect of worship, but because coming together is part of worship. Fellowship.
I'm just asking myself, was this really a blessing in disguise, Victor? How do you see it?
Let me say that the new normal has brought its advantages and disadvantages. One of the disadvantages is what we've just been saying, that we're not able to connect on the brick and mortar. But again, I think it has been a blessing in disguise, because again, we have reached people that we were not able to reach. When, let's say, I go to Baraton SDA or I go to Shaurimoyo SDA or Nairobi Central, because now you notice that whatever you broadcast is not just watched by your members, it's watched by people from all over the world, even places that the Adventist message has not reached. For example, Somalia and other countries that are not Adventist, the Adventist message has not reached. So for me, it is an advantage also, because again, based on the feedback that I've seen probably on the programs that we've done so far in Nairobi Central, the viewership, most of it is people who are not in Kenya, okay? And the people who watch our programs really appreciate, because they're like, they've never seen such. And they're like, this is what we need to do. And we've been having it in the past. Let me just be honest that we've been having online programs in the past, but they've not been appreciated the way they are being appreciated right now. If you ask Pastor Kesis, probably, one thing he'll let you know is that he is now more busy than probably the way he was when he was not preaching online. And this is where we're now heading, because again, the world is changing by time, and we must accept one thing, and this Pastor Kesis probably said off the record, that Corona might not go. And if it does not go, we need to learn how to adapt.
Yeah.
And the adaptations, one of the options for adapting is basically being able to preach and to reach out to people in other ways, apart from just standing on a pulpit. So you see, when a kid is at home right now and they're looking and they're saying, how do I do this? I'm supposed to be in church, and people are watching these things online. We need to strategize and see what exactly can we do to the kids to make them feel that they're still in church, but they're at home. And this is where you now find yourself having programs for them also that they interact with on the various webinars that we have.
Let me get the view of Denmark.
Yes. Just picking it from the point where Pastor Sis left it. Like, when you worship, you go, you expect to take something to God, and also something to be taken from God to you, be given to you. So this one is bringing the church member aspect, okay, connectedness. But then there is a blessing, there is advantage that comes with the online worship as well, because here, talking from my experience, like the level of online worship within a category or a group of people, I find that there is much of TMI in it, total member involvement, and at the same time, we have member-to-member connectivity, so that you can reach to one another, their personal needs at very personal level, not where you meet in church. Someone once said, when you go to church, you meet in church, you'll be prepared you are going to church. But when you are at home, that's how now we get to know what is there. So it's a blessing as well. And it's also reaching many people, because now people are really yearning to know God, to come back to God. And we've experienced, we've invited friends, and they have joined us, and the feedback is that they love the service. That means God is using this platform also to win members back to Him.
Yes, now, Pastor Kesis, I asked you a question on how has this affected your ministry as a gospel minister?
I will speak for me and also for what I've observed around. Once you are in ministry, you don't fail to observe what's happening around. The first effect is that we have been shocked into changing how we do pastoral business. We were used to interacting with the people and doing things. Now we must deal with the people online. We must answer questions online. It is different. Number two, I have noticed that the church leadership at the local church has been shaken significantly. Traditionally, we choose elders to the old people, they are like pillars by age. But now, with the worship moving online, the old school are finding a headache just trying to operate online. And it is becoming necessary that the youth we were looking at a distance must come and drive by force, or else there will be no worship. I know of congregations I will not mention here, high-class congregations by all terms in towns who don't have a Zoom worship up to today. Because the elders know that if they are to go to Zoom, they must let somebody else drive that vehicle. Because they don't have that familiarity with the technology. So ministry is moving such that we pastors who are used to working with the elders and the old in running things must now adjust and realize that the youth are the ones who are going to put us on this platform. And by the way, the majority of the people who are consuming these worship properly are first the youth. So a lot is changing. And then also the issue of technology. We spend a lot of money in planning how we meet physically. But now we may have to invest heavily in ensuring that we can interact with our members online, where they can be faithful without us seeing them and interacting with them. Maybe I pause there for now.
Yes, and like I've seen you on various platforms preaching. Has this opened up ministry for you as a pastor?
Oh, quite significant. Because there are many congregations I've now preached to that would not have afforded to fly me to their country for one Sabbath event. That would be very expensive to fly to Germany to preach one sermon. But now, from where I'm seated, I preach in Germany at zero cost. Well, there is a cost, but we have not, of the bundles, of course, and electricity and what have you. But for the passion of ministry, those things are minimal. And so it has now on Sabbath, like last Sabbath, I preached in 4 different congregations in a day.
Yes.
One congregation recorded the sermon in advance, another one had their sermon much earlier, and another 2 congregations, I preached at the same time using different platforms online. And so I can say possibilities are opening up, but I don't want to say that you'll also notice a significant absence of several people that should be on the platform, which we now need to work on. Yeah.
Okay, Victor, you went online as Nairobi Central, and you are here basically to represent churches and online worship. And I'm thinking, what really triggered you to think like now we really need to go online fully and have our members follow the discussion, follow the worship, and what triggered all that?
Thank you, Ratemo. One thing about COVID that I've come to appreciate is the fact that we were taking online ministry very lightly. Okay, and so for us, the strategy was one: we don't know how long this will take. That is one. We don't know what other measures will be put in place to be able to probably curb the situation. Okay, and so for us, it's how do we move the church from the brick and mortar, which is where we fellowship together, and ensure that we still have the same programs delivered to those members without necessarily having to bring them to church, okay? And so some of the options we were looking at is, for instance, I want Pastor Kesis to dedicate my child. Does he have to come to my house? But again, you see, because he's not allowed to come,
Yes.
at this point in time, I'll just request Pastor Kesis to give me 5 of his minutes on a Zoom meeting, and we sit as a family, and Pastor Kesis dedicates our family, okay? I've actually witnessed a family celebrating the anniversary. I'm not going to mention names, but again, they called a pastor who actually did a sermon for them on Zoom,
Wow.
okay? And they were all seated, and pastor would literally pray for every person in the family and interact with them as if they were on a one-on-one.
As you continue, Victor, let me cut you short briefly to ask Pastor Kesis on how that works, because I know, like, you're dedicating a child, you have to put your hands on the child and, pray for them. Is it still in order? Because for the person in the village, they are wondering, how can that work?
Yeah, it depends on how shallow your theology is or how deep it is. Because, my brother, it is God who blesses. It's not my hands. And at the time when that tradition of laying hands, which we have borrowed from the Bible, was done, they didn't have these challenges and these platforms. But when we pray, must I be present where you are? Because remember, when we are praying, it is to God that we are praying, and it is God who blesses you. But like we say, when our people are more attached to the church, but they are not growing, so that their understanding of the word of God is not growing, they think that it is the pastor's hands that bless. But actually, from my understanding of scripture, when I pray from here for your child, and I believe that though I may not be able to touch that child because of the challenges now, God still blesses that child.
I was just laughing when Dan Mark mentioned that people don't dress up for church now because they're at home. But the truth is that people who still dress up, I have friends who tell me that they actually put on their suits and they sit in the room until the service is over, okay? And actually, they say until the Sabbath is over is when they're going to remove their clothes. So they miss church, But now the fact that they miss does not mean that they change their routine. They still have their routine of dressing up for the service, and you actually see some of them post. They show the way they're actually attending their services. And this is something that we really appreciate, because again, it shows that whatever we're doing is not in vain, okay? And again, I also want to mention that apart from just beaming the messages, we are also able to now interact with them, okay?
All right.
There's a way, let's say, like Nairobi Central, we have a big congregation, okay? And for us to be able to know each and everyone's needs might not be easy. But you see now with the online platform, we are able to get emails, we are able to call people, we are able to have a one-on-one call to those who are in need. And if there are those people who need special needs, like probably they need donations in regards to food items and stuff like that, we have a system that is put in place where you just send your concern and you get feedback like ASAP,
Let me come to you, Dan Mark. How have members received it? Are you seeing them being positive and coming out to be effective in that online worship?
Oh, well, thank you. First, let me add something to what Brother Victor had said. That also, I want to say that even if COVID is going to end, one thing that drives us into online worshiping, like us as a group, is that we want to create that bonding, so that what next after COVID? Yeah, you know, when you are lost at this moment and then you reappear again after COVID, how will it look like? Yeah, so that warmth, that Christian warmth is what we want to maintain for this period until we overcome this situation. But then on the positive response or how the members are taking it, I believe it's more about prayers and as you organize this, you pray for God's guidance because actually you must bear in mind that at this moment also Satan is also arranging his tools and is not giving you space. So he's going after your members and he'll ensure that he creates every excuse possible so that they don't attend. But for the members who have dedicated themselves, the feedback we do get, they are generally good. And we believe that we are growing in faith. Yeah. One of the things that we've been called, we've actually transitioned our doorstep to be our mission field. Yeah.
Wow.
So it is just a blessing.
And I think
Amen.
it's important that we mention that, by the way, Dan Mark, he doesn't represent a church here. He's representing an estate, NHC Langata Court, and they have come together as members from different churches, by the way. Those who reside in NHC, they have come together and they are conducting worship and prayers. And I think that is a motivation to people that you can also go on with your worship as an estate or as a region where you reside. Let's come to the eye openers. Just share our thoughts in terms of what we think can be done to make sure that we continue experiencing worship in as much as we have this crisis, and many other may still come.
Maybe what I've realized is that the online world is ruthless. You must just have good quality service. You know, when we started going online, I decided that I'm going to worship in several places, and I logged into some other continent, and they were having very good singing. And then when it came time now to get into offering before preaching, they started speaking in the local language of some Far Eastern Asia country. And immediately I logged out and went to another location. The online world is very ruthless. You cannot afford to have a captive audience. You know those days when once you come to church, you have no option. You have a bad preacher, he preaches for long, he's boring, he doesn't even know what he's doing. Those days are gone. Because you do that, all I do is click my gadget and I'm out of your church and I'm in another congregation. It is time to look at the quality of our worship. Because if we are to keep people online, particularly the generation that is online, you cannot afford to have bad quality. Even connectivity. We had a hitch recently on our platform, Baraton TV. A hitch came, and by the time we came back online, all the viewers that were present had gone. We didn't get those viewers again when we came back after the technical hitch. So we are living in a ruthless. So when you sit to plan, you know you are not planning for people you have captured. You know, long ago, as Brother Victor said, when they come into the building, I mean, they are all yours. You can even stretch the service to 3 o'clock. They will go angry. You can't do anything. You can no longer do that. Then the second thing is we must expect change. We must expect change. Things will not happen the same way once we go online. But the third thing I will say is that we must aim to do church that we have always done. Nurture and evangelism must go on. Now brains must be at work to achieve the same thing. I'll pause there for now.
Victor, let me come to you on that.
My mind, as in change is inevitable, and change is what we need to appreciate now. There's some things I'll just give as key. One, with regards to timing of our programs, I've attended churches locally, and one thing that has come out clearly is we don't know how to manage time. Okay, one of the things that comes out again is that when you know there are programs that are set to be able to reach out to people, you find that most of the time we focus on a lot of things that are really not let me not speak badly, but say we need to see how to be able to adjust when you're going online, because there will not have announcements. You see the way Pastor Kesisa said, it's not your normal church setup. So it's not everybody who comes to your church that will come to your online platform. This is now a vast proportion of people who are coming to be able to listen to the services you're offering. So one thing we need to think about is the programming, okay? Your programming has to be very consistent and it has to be very precise with regards to what you're planning to send out. So if you're trying to talk of mission, let it be mission. If you're trying to talk about, let's say, if it's a sermon, let it not be a 1 hour sermon. Because again, this is not the normal world, as Pastor Kesisa said. Look at how your audience behaves when it comes to receiving the message. If I sit for 4 hours, will I be able to come in the afternoon? You get? So what we try to do is ensure that your programs are short and precise and good, okay? The quality has to be good, the sound, and even the people who sing. Like you see, Pastor Kesi says the choristers pulled him, okay? But immediately after, things went out of control. So whatever you do is, even the choristers who stand on the pulpit, let them relate to the people they're reaching out to. And if possible, try and sing hymns even in various languages. Let's say if you're in Kenya, try and sing a Kalenjin song, try and sing a Kisi song, try and sing all these languages if you can. Because again, you're interacting with people from all over the world. Then it's also good to appreciate feedback. When you're online, feedback comes, okay? It's a two-way system. So when you're receiving feedback, try and engage your audience. Because if you don't engage them again, they will go, okay? Yeah. And then equipment. This one I need to emphasize because again, I take my time, apart from just working in Nairobi Central and ensuring that you have content, I also take my time to look at other contents from other churches. One of the things I've noticed is we don't focus on good equipment. So you find that you have very good sound, but very poor images, or the vice versa. So what we need to do as we request, probably this is an advice to the churches, we need to invest on equipment. It might look expensive on the go, but again, it's a one-off, okay? Yeah. You'd rather spend and have a good thing that your members might appreciate, as compared to having a video where I see Pastor Kessis on silent mode, but again, the sound is like he's talking, you know? So there's no synchrony. Okay, the other option for being able to prevent this is do a pre-recording. There's no damage in pre-recording your programs. Okay, pre-record your programs, edit them nicely, and package them on Sabbath so that your members can be able to receive them in a fresh way. Okay, so I think those are the pieces of advice I can give to the members who are planning to probably go online and they've not gone. Thank you.
Yes, Pastor Kesis, as you think about this, let me go to Denmark first. But of course, I'll be needing you to kind of, this thing caught us off guard. Nobody prepared for it. And all of a sudden, we are told that we are not going to churches. But then, Denmark, what is your input on the same discussion?
It's true, even up to now, to accept that even here in Nairobi, all over the world, like there are some churches that you prefer online. Like if you go online, you'd like to say this Sabbath, I'm going to follow this worship from certain church. Like I want to commend my brother Victor, because Central still remains as one of the best churches with the good quality online service. And why is this? I want to say it's proper investment, just as he has mentioned. But then one thing also he'll tell you is that wherever your sound, even if the quality of video is good like what, but if the sound has a problem, then no one would like to follow your service. So everything revolves around the quality and being able to synchronize everything in a manner that it appears more fresh to the consumer. And when you're going online, you're not only going online for the fellows who are in the same faith with you. So this one you also have to take care of, the content, delivery, and everything. How are you going to engage them? As Victor said, that are you going to engage your audience? Yes, how? Are you going to consider who your audience are? If you're still going to remain in that cocoon where you only channeling your content to your faith-based Christians, then I think it's high time you change and get to a more vast picture of the content so that everyone can get to follow, and then at least they learn from there. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think what you're saying that let's realize that it's not normal worship, it's also ministry. So whenever you're talking, don't speak with some jargon that is only known to your congregation. Yeah, and by the way, could we be castigating these people, because some of this equipment are quite expensive. You need, like, Victor, how many cameras do you use?
In Central Church, we use 3 cameras, but you might be tempted to think we're using 6 or 7.
But then you realize Victor, that 3 cameras would each camera would not come below 100,000, I think, the ones you are using. So if you want to tell a rural church whose tithe collection equal to maybe in a month would equal to even 20,000, it would be so difficult for them to get such equipment. Are there other means that they can still conduct such a worship, have a good worship, still maintaining the quality and that fellowship?
Ratemo, let me just confess one. Mm-hmm. We have very beautiful phones in the market right now. Mm-hmm. Okay?
Yes.
They're phones that do way much better than even cameras that we have. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so for that person in the village, you just need to invest on a good phone. Because again, if I tell you to buy a camera for 500,000, that's not possible. But you see, with a phone that has a good camera, you can be able to reach your members, and they appreciate the fact that the picture is good. But I'm very aware that there are churches even in Nairobi that are using phones to beam their messages. What they need to do is just get an interconnection with the mixer where they get the sound, okay? Mm-hmm. And they connect it to a phone. And they have a beautiful image, as in you look at the video and you don't believe that it's on a phone. Actually, even in the filming industry right now, people are encouraged to film using phones. And there are competitions that are going out for people to use phones to be able to appreciate the fact that you don't need to have expensive equipment to be able to reach out, okay?
Yes.
So it's not a matter of what amount is the camera. You can get cameras that are as cheap as 50,000, even 40,000. But again, if you don't manage to afford that, you can even purchase a phone for 20,000 or 15,000, and the quality of the image is what matters. Because again, if you have a good image, you just need to loop in sound, and there you are, you're broadcasting. Okay?
Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, Pastor Ketis, let's talk about strategic planning, being prepared for crisis even in the future. How prepared are we as a leadership?
First of all, what Victor said, there is this comedy in Nigeria, Mark Angel.
Yes, yes.
Mark Angel says they started shooting those comedies using phones. Mm-hmm. So I think we should look into phones, and then maybe a little training of making sure where the direction of the light and what have you, those small things, and those things can be done. I mean, you make a phone call to Victor and say, what do I do? I now have a good phone, and you will be assisted for free.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Now, when we come to strategic planning, nobody expected COVID. Even the Americans who we think should know better underestimated COVID. So it came as a surprise not only to church leaders, it came as a surprise even to national leaders of some of the best countries. However, what we deal with when you have been surprised by an enemy is no longer to look back and cry over the mistakes, is now to look at where you are and say, in our church, a lot of power is invested in the local church. And so we need to ask each local church to at least organize, even if it is a free Zoom worship. There are even members out there who may not know that you can download Zoom for free on your phone and have a meeting for 40 minutes for free, except bundles. If we do that, we will have at least each local church reaching the members they know have been attending there. Unfortunately, since we closed in March, there are churches that don't even have a Zoom meeting, and the elders and leaders of those churches are comfortable worshiping in other churches when they have members they were given responsibility to take care of. I think it is time we take power back to the local church. Even if they have 40 minutes, the rest of the time they can go to other platforms. But at least for purposes of fellowship and keeping in touch with the members, not everybody may afford 3 hours of broadcasting, but let them afford the at least 20 minutes of coming together to worship. That is very critical. And I think it is time that we start cascading that information downwards slowly and require every congregation, every Sabbath school, every company to at least meet online. They may say that, oh, we don't have bundles. That is true, but meet the 5 who have bundles, so that when they go to the market, they tell others, we met. They may come 2 families and view 1 phone, and you will slowly be reaching the people that you need to reach. We cannot wait. To say that we are waiting for COVID to end, that's fallacious thinking. To say that you are waiting for COVID to end, people will backslide as you wait. It is time we make demands. We start demanding that the pastors and the elders organize this free worship. Let people gather and worship.
Amen.
Wow, amen, amen. Now, I'll come back to you with your last comment on how does the future look like, so that, we can continue being prepared for that, because our minutes are almost out. But Dan Mark, what has this taught about us about family worship? Because I think we were not used to worshiping alone in the homes, and people are asking, how do you conduct worship with your family? Is that really possible? Have we learned that?
Yes, conducting family worship, actually, there are those who are doing it for the first time, that's true. But what I want to say is that it's effective in one way, and it's building our family together. But then there's questions, just like what Pastor started with, when he said that a child who is not going to church and now seeing you are now worshiping at home, how will he or she get this? Like, do you have to explain? They have always been taught that they need to go to church on a Sabbath and worship from there. But then here comes a case where you are worshiping from home in your family. You have a task as a parent to explain that now that there is COVID-19, we can't go to church, we have to worship here. We can meet our Lord from here. So it's not difficult, but I think it still revolves around embracing change. That even as we move ahead from now, we live with the reality that we have COVID-19 with us, and we have the regulations that have been given by the Ministry of Health. What do we do about them? So if family worshiping is the best, then let it do. But then something also, family worshiping is also, I can also categorize it under group fellowship, because it's only a few members of the families who are coming together to praise the Lord and worship together. Yeah. So in this manner, you also get to nourish each one across the family, okay? So that you grow in this faith together, and whatever you do to the glory of God as a family. So that when COVID-19 comes to an end, or maybe if it doesn't come to an end, you have something to say. Worship didn't stop. We continued
we still,
the family life.
Wow, thank you. Let me give Victor 1.5 minutes. How does the future look like for Nairobi Central, for church worship, and you just using Nairobi Central as a case sample?
Let me say, as I just said in the beginning, we started online worship way before COVID-19. And what happened is after COVID, during COVID, we now made it bigger, okay? Because now the audience became bigger. And this is considering that even the membership came back to the houses. Now, some of the strategies that we're putting in place is to develop other ways of being able to reach members apart from the Sabbath programs that we're having. So we're looking forward to having weekly programs. We are already camp meeting online. The entire camp meeting will be done online. And then we're also looking forward to ensuring that all the various groups that we have in the church, the widows, the widowers, the young couples, all these other parties, we'll be given various webinars to be able to interact with the various speakers when it comes to any of the programmings that you're planning.
Well, I see you have very good plans for the future, and I think it's what churches need to be learning, strategizing for the
Yes.
future, because we are in this crisis, and it might delay going away. It might go away, but it might delay. So we need to forge ways wherewith we can continue with our normal worship. But Pastor Kesis, in the next 2 minutes, I think, can you just tell us how the future looks like? Your thoughts?
My thoughts is that the future, people are going online. You know, at the university, we've been receiving students who fill forms and would bring forms, but the government required them now to apply online. So even those who are saying they don't know anything online are going online.
Mm-hmm.
Taxes, we are returning them online. We are doing so many things online. If the world is going online, remember he said, go ye into the world. If the world is online, we must go online. That's what I say, brother Atemo. We must go online. The world is online because we are looking for people online. And we must now plan evangelism online with the same goals of opening churches, same goals of convincing people that we have the truth. We will go online. We are already thinking that.
What's your message to your fellow gospel ministers? Because I've seen many are nowhere to be seen.
They will adjust, no problem. You know, circumstances now, you know, this is a new normal. You may be slow. There are A students, B students, C students. They will all catch up. They will have to graduate at some point.
Amen.
Yeah, thank you very much. And there you have it, our dear viewer. We have come to the end of our discussion. Of course, our discussion was all about the rise of televangelism and online worship. Things have gone online, like my panelist here is saying, that we need to think online, everything online, and have the strategy that will enable us to continue with our normal worship, but online and unorganized worship. Thank you very much for being with us on our discussion. Thank you very much, my guest, Pastor Ray Kesis from Baraton. We also have Victor Nyecharo from Nairobi Central, and we also have Denmark Achieng from NHC Langata Court Residence Worship. Thank you very much, and my name is Nixon Ratemo. See you next time.